Alright guys, so welcome to ABC analysis for November 2022 exams. You can call this as guest questions as well, but anyway, for important questions I'll make some other video, okay? I'll make a separate video and then probably I'll upload it in 1 or 2 days, depending upon my schedule and all that, right? Coming on to this one, as you can see, I've divided this into 3 categories, A, B and C. A category approximately will be getting somewhere around 80 marks. And B category somewhere around 20 marks, and C category the leftover marks, right? Anyways, so let's get into this straight away. So first one is we have intro to SCM, that is chapter 1, and this most of the times it belongs to C category by default, okay, except for 2 topics over here, value chain and Potter's 5 forces. I think since last 2 or 3 attempts this remains the same. Always this is an unimportant chapter except for value chain and Potter's 5 forces. Except those 2 topics, everything else in this particular chapter is pretty much not so important, so that we know. Even in this attempt also there is nothing new altogether, okay. Coming on to chapter 2, that is MBA modern business environment. This time most of the topics in this chapter, they belong to B category. So on a whole this belongs to B category only, but however, cost of quality and TQM, I would rather point it out as A category, so you have to read it compulsorily. We are expecting a question. Supply chain management, it's an evergreen topic. Most of the times it will be belonging to A category only, because you need to understand one thing. There are certain topics like supply chain, target costing, okay, Kaizen costing, activity based costing. These topics in the examination, questions need not be exclusively from that area, but it will be from some other area, but still that question will be somehow linked with these topics, okay. So which means a question from some other chapter plus activity based costing, a question from some other chapter plus supply chain management, you got it, a question from some other chapter plus Kaizen costing, you know, a question from some other chapter plus target costing. So therefore these topics in itself, they are important, but they will be asked as an you know, what can I say, ancillary kind of a question, okay, rather than being asked directly. In that way this is also important. You may not get a direct question, but this concept you must know in order to answer some other conceptual questions from other chapters, okay. Once I hope some of you will clearly understand what I'm trying to say, if at all you have done case studies, because you can see so many case studies. SCM, supply chain management, is linked with some other topics, and case studies has been asked, right? Everything else in this particular chapter belongs to B category, okay. Accordingly you can plan. Now moving on to chapter 3, lean system and innovation. Entire chapter is important this particular time. Again, it's important every single time only, but this time it's rather important. I'm expecting around 25 marks from this particular chapter, approximately 20 to 25. In this order you can study. So the most important this particular attempt will be total productive maintenance as well as cellular manufacturing. Especially I'm not talking about the concept. On cellular manufacturing, rank order clustering algorithm, okay, there is a problem. It is there in my YouTube channel as well. You can just search with that name. You'll get a video where I've explained you clearly what that concept is all about. If you just observe that video, it's enough. Straight away you can go and write in the examination, okay. So we are expecting that sum. It may come, okay. Next, third important one is Kaizen costing. Fourth important is JAT. Fifth important is BPR. And at last, Six Sigma. You may also skip Six Sigma also, but anyway, just have a rough idea. That's all. Okay. On a whole, this chapter itself is important, but as I told you, in this order you can prepare when you are preparing. Okay, if you don't have time, that's the thing. And moving on to chapter 4, of course, in my power notes, as you guys know already, all these things have been given in a summarized format. You can just read that the day before the exam, because you know that my power notes is around 296 pages if I'm not wrong. So 296 pages covering concepts of all the chapters, okay. So therefore that is the only kind of pages that you can really study the day before the exam, okay. Honestly speaking, you can't study a 500 page, 1000 page, 1500 page material the day before the exam. That is the reason power notes has been made. And please try to understand that power notes is a simplified version, but the wordings from the ICA study material has been kept intact, okay, because if keywords from ICA study material has not been kept intact, if it is further simplified, then the power notes will be simplified, but eventually you will not get marks in the examination. That is the reason it has to be simplified, but at the same time you cannot remove the wordings, the actual word framing of ICA. You got it? That is really important, so keep this in mind. Now moving on to next one, chapter 4, again it belongs to A category only, CMT, okay. In that, the most important one is life cycle costing. Okay, this life cycle costing is really important. Life cycle costing with pricing decisions, that can be asked. So in that case, this linked with pricing decision is also important. Keep that in mind. Next, target costing is also a category. Environmental management accounting is also a category. Either EMA, environmental management accounting question can be asked, or triple bottom line can be asked. Where is this triple bottom line? Yeah, from chapter 7. Okay, because environment management accounting is all about taking decision making, I mean considering all this environmental impact into decision making, whereas triple bottom line is all about reporting, considering the environmental aspects. Okay, so therefore either of these topics can be touched upon, so keep that in mind. Value analysis and value engineering, of course, it is part and parcel of target costing only. Okay, it is important. So this whole chapter belongs to a category. Right, moving on to fifth one, decision making. These three topics I feel important in the entire chapter. So if you don't have time, then you can just go through these three topics and leave the rest of the chapter. Okay, one is activity based CVP analysis, means activity based costing plus decision making. Okay, make or buy, right? You can watch the revision lectures. I have recently uploaded my Scmpe part 1 revision lecture of 8 hours. You can observe that revision lecture. In the decision making has been beautifully covered. Okay, make or buy is also one area where question can be asked. Ethical and non-financial aspects also can be one area where even a case study can be asked. And of course CVP in JAT, that is also important. Okay, which means JAT plus decision making chapter, right? Rest of the concepts in decision making you can skip, or you can just give it a glance view. Okay, that's fine, because always we have to be on the safer side, right? If time really is a big criteria for you, then you can skip. Otherwise, just give it a glance view. Just watch it once, review it once, and then leave it. Okay, now moving on to next one, chapter 6, pricing decisions. It is always B category. You just need to cover everything, that's all. But pricing decisions linked with life cycle costing, and sometimes pricing decisions linked with transfer pricing, that is important. That you please try to study. Okay, pricing decisions linked with some other chapters, there are problems. Okay, they are important, don't skip it. But rest of the chapter, I think it's not that important, but still it is not something that you can skip because it belongs to B category, not C. Okay, next, chapter 7, of course the most important chapter, PME. There are two chapters that are most important for you, CMT and PME. These chapters on an average, they'll get you 50 plus marks. Keep that in mind. Cost and management techniques and PME, these two chapters on an average will give you 50 plus marks in the examination. So it's very important. Keep that in mind. In PME, the most important, the entire chapter belongs to A category, but in that the most important, I'll give you the order. Okay, order of importance. The first important one is building block model. I really hope that this time, because remember, building block model is very dangerous concept. The reason is the concept is simple only, but all the difficult sums, especially when I'm talking about case studies, the difficult and challenging case studies in your entire syllabus, 90%, okay, they belong to BBM, the big case studies. So therefore, in case if a compulsory question comes from this area, you'll be clean bowled at the beginning of the exam only. Therefore, give it due importance. And in PME chapter itself, you can see there are some big case studies, okay, which are purely based on BBM only. So that way, building block model is the most important this particular attempt. Next, balance scorecard, as usual, second priority. Third, performance for not-for-profit sector. Fourth, EVA, RI and ROI. Okay. Then CSF and KPI. In itself, they are not important. He'll not ask you directly what is critical success factor and key performance indicator. But there will be some other question, some other case study, some other chapter where they'll be linked with CSF and KPI. Some other chapter, some other case study will be there. He'll just ask you, write some 4 critical success factors and write equivalent KPIs for that particular question. So this can be linked with anything else. It can be linked with balance scorecard. It can be linked with performance pyramid. It can be linked with anything else. That way, CSF and KPI is important. Benchmarking this time has not been important because anyway it has been removed from the syllabus. Okay, the benchmarking content has been removed. Next, performance pyramid and performance prism. Just have a look at it. Not so important, but still you should not miss it. Okay, that's the 7th priority. TBL, triple bottom line, 8th priority. And finally, adapted balance scorecard. Just one paragraph is there of 5 lines. How much time it will take for you to just read those 5 lines, right? Chalo. Coming on to chapter 8. It also belongs to A category, transfer pricing. You just revise everything. This time we can't really predict and say what will come and what may not come. But I really hope that maximum and minimum TP kind of a question can be asked. Okay. And also transfer pricing conflict. Based on that also a question can be asked. Apart from that, the whole chapter as such is pretty important. So therefore, revise it. We are expecting some 10 marks. Next, chapter 9. Okay. Mostly this chapter belongs to B category, SAOA. Right from the beginning, this is B category chapter only. Strategic analysis of operating income. But the entire chapter is not B. In that, you have got ABC and ABM. Activity-based costing and activity-based cost management. That belongs to A category. Don't miss it. Don't skip it. And generally, when I am teaching, I don't teach ABC as a part and parcel of chapter 9. I teach ABC as a part and parcel of decision making. So therefore, I cover it here itself. So in my teaching process, if you are listening to my class or my especially my classes, then in that case, APC does not form part and parcel of this chapter itself. Okay, in that case, it doesn't work out that way. So therefore, I generally say that decision making inclusive of ABC is important, because activity based CVP analysis is there, right? Here itself, I'll teach what is ABC, because activity based CVP analysis is nothing but activity based costing plus decision making. Okay. So I teach the concept here itself when we are solving sums in decision making chapter itself. Here I generally don't cover ABC. I feel that that's the right way to do it. But anyways, if you have not covered here, then here it is important. If you have covered here in decision making, then here anyway you have covered, so it doesn't matter, right? Activity based cost management is just a continuation of ABC. It's the application of expansion of the world of ABC. So that way you should just give it a look. That should be enough. Okay, right. Next, what else? You have a strategic analysis of profitability, that is there, where actually this in my classes I teach this area as part and parcel of standard costing. Okay, so generally I'll not teach it as part and parcel of this chapter, so therefore it will be covered in standard costing itself. That's the right way to learn them as well. Okay, right. And finally, direct product profitability also, just give it a look. Rest of the topics are mostly B category. Next, what else you have got? There's an area called manufacturing excellence over here. That also you can just look into that. Okay, just give it a glance view. That should be fine. Chapter 10, budgetary control. Always it is C category. Okay, most of the times, but sometimes it went to B category in case we are expecting that a question can be asked. But this time I feel that it's a pretty dull chapter, so therefore we have put it under C category. But however, beyond budgeting and performance measurement, you should give it due importance. A question can come, so therefore just give it a due importance. Sometimes what happens is that many times we feel that a question has come in the last attempt, therefore next attempt it will not come, and it has been exactly repeated. Not only the same area, sometimes same question has been repeated as well. So therefore never try to underestimate, I say, is what I say. So generally there are certain evergreen important topics in every single chapter, so that we should not skip, even though the chapter belongs to a C category. Okay, is what my opinion is. And finally, standard costing. This time it belongs to B category. We are not expecting that many marks this time. But however, examiners' favorite topics are there from this particular chapter. So you need not skip the whole chapter, right? Planning and operating variances, give it a look. Activity-based costing with standard costing, give it a look. And reconciliation also, give it a look. Rest of the chapter, yes, you can skip. At least do some 2 sums, 3 sums from this area. That should be it. Hardly it will take 2 hours if you've already done it. So 2 hours is a time worth spending in case we are getting question from this particular chapter. So therefore, don't skip it altogether is what I'll say. Don't skip it altogether. Is that clear? Right? So these 3, they belong to A category. Rest of the chapter, it belongs to B category. All right. I hope we have covered everything. Now, many students have personally asked me, sir, how to manage case studies, because last time in the recent attempt in group 2, in one paper, too much of marks has been given. In one paper, marks has not been given at all. That is, in IDT, too much of marks has been given. In Scmpe, the marks has not been given at all, actually. Those who feel that you have written well and still you have failed, don't worry about that, because the correction itself was not, in a right way. It was too tight, actually. So in that case, what I have to do, sir? So I've told so many times for the students of my class and even in our YouTube channel as well. So when it comes to case study, you basically divide them into 3 categories. Okay. Category 1 is the concept. Category 2 is what you have to copy paste from the question. Category 3 is your conclusion. Okay. So what you guys need to understand here is, so case study, 3 categories: concept, okay, copy paste, and a conclusion. So this will be around 10%, 10 to 20%. This will be around 20 to 30%, and 50% will be this one. So one thing that I would like to tell you guys is that why do you fear about case studies? There is nothing to fear. because 90% of the case studies, if you can analyze the solution, it will be like this only. 20 to 30% it's all about the concept, because every case study will be based on a particular concept, and anyway you have to remember that concept and then write it down. How to remember the concept? Already I gave you power notes, 296 pages. Okay, in that certain theory chapters are there. Not all chapters are theory. You can eliminate decision making, you can eliminate transfer pricing, isn't it? Lot of chapters you can eliminate. Rest of the chapters you can remember. So it will come somewhere around 150 to 200 pages. 150 to 200 pages we have to remember, Nana, at CA final level, isn't it? Your daily job is that just take that power notes, okay, that 150 to 200 pages, read it, keep on revising it. Every day revise some 20 pages. What is there? Hardly it will take some, let's say 1.5 hours. Okay, every day you do that. 1.5 hours you give it to Scmpe every single day, considering it is the first paper in your group 2. So that's most important. Similar to FR, first paper in group 1. Always first papers are very important psychologically. Keep that in mind. Okay. So therefore, once you have read that power notes, okay, no matter what case study is being asked in the examination, anyway you will remember that concept, because every case study should be based upon some particular concept, and that you can easily identify. The moment you read the question, you can know, okay, this is a concept that I have to apply. Reproduce the concept as it is. You will be getting 20 to 30% of the marks. The rest 50% of the question, it is a copy paste from the question itself. So from question itself, you have to take the content and then you have to what? Discuss it. Are able to understand? If you look at my solutions power notes, okay, in that I have clearly written, copy paste this from the question. In many answers I have written like that only. The solutions power notes has been written in such a way that it is only to communicate to you in what simplified manner you can write the answers. Okay. So I think in the entire country, I am the only one who have actually solved each and every question from the ICI study material and have simplified it. Okay. And not just copy paste of the answer as it is. You got it. So therefore you can just check out, but the problem is it is not for self-study purpose. That is the reason we haven't advertised it anywhere. Okay, especially the solutions books, but still, so therefore my advice would be, it is not for self-study, because you will not understand. I would have written like this, like this, like this. I would have written like this, like this, like this, and I would have written copy paste. I would have written discussed in class. All these things you will not understand unless you are following my class, because that's the only way I can simplify a big case study, right? But what I'm trying to tell you from that is that the 50%, the major part of the answer of your case study is a intellectual copy paste of the question only. So it is not something that you need to remember. So major part of the answer is done already. This is the only area that will trouble you. Now, I am applying this percentage logic for 90% of the question. There are exceptions where conclusion or analysis itself will be 50%, where there will be no copy paste from the question. Are you able to understand? There are exceptions, but I am talking about 90% of the case studies, including case studies of your case studies chapter of your ICA study material, the last module, as well as case study digest. Okay, right. And finally, the conclusion. This is where you have to apply. You have to apply the concept that you know into the scenario of the question and then write the conclusion in your own language. This is the only thing that you have to give real importance to, you know, real attention to. But rest of the things, I think you can manage. Okay, this is in your hand only, right? No matter how difficult the case study is going to be. So that is one thing. So keep this in mind. I hope you guys should be able to answer. If you have any more questions with respect to case studies, especially how to attend it or any specific questions, okay, you can just comment it below the video. I'll be happy to reply. Next. That's what I've written. Read power notes for the concepts. Okay, you have to reproduce that here. Okay. Next, copy paste the ICA keywords. Don't worry about that. Your power notes has been written by keeping keywords in the perspective only. That's the reason the words has been taken as it is from the ICA in most of the parts, because otherwise we'll not get marks in the examination if I change that as well. It can be changed. I know how to change that. Okay, but the problem is you will not get marks in the examination. That is the reason we kept it. Okay, especially the keywords on par with ICA. Okay, only then our answer will match with the key. Next, conclusion is the most difficult part. That is where you have to what? Give your attention to, where you have to apply the concept and then try to analyze what is happening to the data of the question. And finally, discussion content from the question itself you can copy paste. Next. Some of the students have asked me, sir, what about problematic questions, sir? Problematic questions, there is no pro forma. Nana. Many students still today also they feel that there is a pro forma. I need to write something like this. It has been presented in the examination, sorry, in the ICA. Therefore, I have to replicate it the same way. No, it is not. So many times in my class, I've already told you this and I've solved problems in a different way when compared to your ICA. Okay, but still the answer remains the same. So working notes is important. You have to explain each and every number how they have come, right? And conclusion generally write in your own language. That also in the class I've shown you so many times. How the essence of the conclusion you have to keep it the same with your ICA, but the wordings and all those things you can change. Okay, the essence has to remain same. That I've clearly taught in the class in so many sums. I've told you, okay, this is the way it has been presented in your ICA study material. Look at the essence, and I'm writing the same essence, but the wordings, the way I construct sentence are different. Okay, that way it will be easy for you to remember. You can't try to by heart everything, then it will be impossible for you to remember. Okay, already you have theory of 150 to 200 pages which you have to remember, and this also, if you try to by heart, it will be near impossible task. So generally try to write this in your own language, ensuring that the essence of the answer given by your ICA remains same. Next, if concept has to be written, write it as it is from your power notes, which we already know. So for case studies, the logic remains the same. For practical questions or problematic questions also, the logic remains the same, where you have to copy paste the concept from the power notes. That's why power notes is very important. That 296 page content from me, right? What else? Now, other things that you have to keep in mind, especially when it comes to Scmpe, is that, as you know, recently we have been seeing so many videos where the correction has not been proper by the ICA, especially in SFM we have been seeing, and many people have been protesting. They have been doing lots of videos trying to submit memorandum and all those things. I would not like to comment on that right now. I'll try to make a separate video on that. But what I would like to tell you guys is that, so you know that there is a problem. So what is a solution for that? Do you think a solution will come now? No, it's not gonna come, because 3 years before also the same thing has happened and nothing has got changed. Although it is very disheartening to listen, that is a reality. Why is that? I'll make a separate video on that. So keep that aside. What I can tell you right now is that for the exam which is going to come in another 1 month, is that if you are targeting, let's say, you want 60 marks to come in a particular paper, I would rather ask you to revise your target and make it 70 or 80. There is no other choice. And because you already have some 25 to 30 days still for the examination, so I would like to ask you guys to push yourself that extra bit forward, and then try to put in a little bit of extra bit of effort, and then eventually ensure that your target is revised by upwards of 10 to 20 marks. Okay, so that if correction goes either udhar kuch to gadbad ho gaya, whatever happens, still you will end up in your safe zone, is what I would like to say. If you want 200 marks in a particular group, and if you target 200 marks exactly, then you are on a risky side. You got to target 240, 250, then something otherwise either would happens, still you'll be getting 200 marks. Now, apart from that, in the class, I told my students, and even in the videos in YouTube also, so many times I've told you guys that the guy who is going to correct your paper is not your relative. He's not your mother. He's not your father. He's not your brother or sister. So therefore, he doesn't have any sort of emotional connect with you. He is getting some money for that. He's doing his job. That's it. Only 1% of the people will feel that I'm not correcting a piece of paper, I'm correcting the future of a particular student. Only 1% of the people will feel that, and they'll act responsibly irrespective of the monetary payment that they receive. But rest of the people, because our ICA gives pretty bad monetary payment, they will be doing that in an abrupt way only. And as a result, what you guys need to do is that you need to present it in such a way that you don't irritate the examiner. You need to present it in such a way that you you support the laziness of the examiner. Examiner wants to correct your paper as early as possible and throw it away, and you will support it. That's the way you have to present it. Okay, you support his laziness. He wants to find a particular answer, you try to write it in such a way that it's easy for him to find. You got the point? You write a particular problem in a wrong way, then you let him know that it is wrong. You don't irritate him. You don't try to what? Give him a thriller movie where he tries to put in a lot of effort and a lot of time, and finally he comes to know that your answer is wrong. Don't try to give him that sort of an irritation, and it's gonna affect your marks. Okay, so my advice for you is that present it in such a way that for the correctioner, he can correct your paper fast. Are able to understand? If there is a question where some 4 A, B, C, D like that it has been asked, although you have solved 4 pages is the solution. A has been solved in 1 page, B has been solved somewhere, C has been solved somewhere, D has been solved somewhere. Finally, what you have to do? Okay, I need to ensure that I have to help my examiner to correct my paper fast. So what I have to do? A, B, C, D. Finally, you write, and this is your answer. So that if I am an examiner and I don't have time to correct your paper by seeing each and everything, I'll just turn the page, I'll see that okay, A, B, C, D, the answers, already answers will be stored in my mind because I'm correcting hundreds of pages, right? So I know that okay, these answers are correct. Sometimes if I'm lazy enough, then I'll not even check all your steps and I'll just look at A, B, C, D answers. The final answers are fine. I'll move on to the next question. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Right? So like this, when you're writing, feel yourself from the examiner's perspective. you feel as if you are stepping into the shoes of the examiner, and then you have to feel that you are lazy, you don't have any emotional connect. I'm not talking about everybody, but majority will be like this only, unfortunately. Sorry to say that. And they are also nothing wrong in that, because they are not getting any monetary compensation which justifies them to give enough time. Okay, because no matter whether you accept or whether I accept, everybody runs through money these days, isn't it? So that we need to accept. So therefore, he wants to correct your paper as early as possible. So try to think from his perspective. If you are in his position and you want to correct your paper fast, what would you do? How would you present your paper? You present it in an unclumsy manner. You try to show him that if this is the answer, then you try to show him in a clear way so that he can easily find the answer without struggling hard. Are you able to understand? Yes. And you try to highlight it wherever it is possible. And if it is wrong also, you try to highlight it. So you don't try to irritate him by, he's searching for a problem so much of time. Finally, eventually he finds out that it is wrong. And that's not good. Because every examiner suffers from personal and financial issues. And that frustration, if he shows on your paper, your life is doomed. Please try to take care of this particular point. Alright, still if you have any queries, you just comment down in this particular video. I'll be happy to answer. Okay. Or if there are one or two comments or few comments, I'll just try to reply it then and there itself. Or if the comments are too much and people are asking me too many questions, I'll make a separate video on that as well. Within a day, I'll make it. What is there in that? Okay. So I hope this video has given you some, help, in the form of ABC analysis and some tips. I hope you guys will rock the examinations, and all the best. Thank you.